Morning or afternoon or evening if you don't happen to be practicing live today. Oh, apparently I've changed my camera a little bit, so I've got all my accoutrements showing. My name is Karen, a yoga instructor of around 14 years, and I'm coming to you from Salt and Sand Studios in Vermont. Today we're doing a bit of a reset. So it won't be much of a flow if you're expecting a flow. Maybe you can reset the expectations. This is about getting from point A to point B. In other words, practicing some tools that you can use yourself at any point in time. If you are feeling anxious or agitated or angry, to get yourself to something more along the lines of blissful or feeling blessed or feeling beloved. I won't say they work 100% of the time because it takes, all parts of the body, the heart, the mind, the internal words, the actions, the spirit to make it happen. But we'll work on those reset possibilities together today. I'm really glad to be here with you. So I had suggested some sort of bolster or bed pillow, one or two. I'm stacked up pretty high here, which you can see. So if you are not sitting on something, I encourage you to do so because our first postures are associated with resetting the lower half of the body, as well as resetting the breath and enabling an encouragement of openness, so that our responses are a little less reactive and more actually chosen response. So we're going to sit on our cushion, our bolster, or our two pillows or a couple of blankets. Get yourself settled there to start with a little breath work, and then we will move the breath work into a couple of different postures. So in your seated position, if you can't cross your legs comfortably, definitely putting something underneath your sits bones can help a lot. And you can cross the feet so that they are at the ankles, or you can cross closer or farther away. It depends. All depends on how you feel. If you can, the palms are up on facing upward with the backs of the wrists on your thighs. We're going to start by shrugging the shoulders up to the ears with a breath in and sending them behind us, really slowly squeezing the shoulders together. And then we let it go, the breath and the body. And we take that 3 more times. Return to a natural breath, whatever that means for you. I'm going to loosen up the neck a tiny bit. So go ahead and on an exhale, the right ear draws toward the right shoulder. If you like, the hands can drop beside you, or beside your bolster or pillows. See if you can let the shoulders hang away from the ears, both sides. An inhale brings your chin parallel to the earth, and an exhale, opposite ear, opposite shoulder. And you might take some notice of any difference side to side. It's not good, it's not bad, it's not black, it's not white, it's just different. And we lift the chin parallel to the earth. Next exhale, we turn the head toward the right side, and maybe we take another few breaths, breathing in fully, kind of lifting the diaphragm, the chest. And when we exhale, maybe we find a little more space to turn the neck. The eyeballs move along the same path, but as far as perhaps farther than where the nose goes, or the right ear goes. Ear go. And inhale will bring your nose front and center, and exhale, you turn to the other side. If you need to change the space spacing or placement of your arms, go right ahead. And again, let those eyeballs follow as far back as they possibly can. This trips the rest and digest, the vagus nerve. And the head comes front and center. Beautiful. We're going to work on the breath now, again, without any twisting, but we'll use the arms, we'll use the belly, and of course, we'll use the lungs. So it's going to be a two-part inhale through the nose, followed by a full exhale through the nose. So it goes like this. Inhale, inhale, exhale, drop the arms. Just watch your knuckles. Ready? Add the top of the body to it. Right up to the finish point. Check in with the body, maybe do a little observation, scanning all the way up from the feet to the crown of the head and out to the fingers, just noticing any emotions or what the body is physically experiencing. I personally have warmed up, so off with the sweater. Now we'll move into a loosening up and opening up, a lubrication of the lower body, maybe even a whole reset. So again, you want to be on something that brings your hips pretty far above your knees. And if you've had your knees crossed a certain way, so let's undo that. And then go ahead and set the whichever foot was closest to you a little forward on the ground. Lift the opposite knee in. Now notice how you like to hunch over, how you maybe like to curl the toes that are on the ground. Let's take some ankle circles here. This is my left foot. I don't know what foot it is for you, so let's try and remember what side we're on. And circle the other way. Point and lift, toes and heel. Open and close the toes, maybe sort of like a fist, a toe fist, not tofu. And we're going to find a crossing of the knees as much as you can. You might not be able to cross them a lot. Then you're going to scoot the buttocks a little forward. You have your knees crossed, so they're stacked. This is called stacked knee position, and you're welcome to remain here with the eyes closed, breathing slowly through the nose. If you are on the A side of the equation right now, feeling anxious or agitated or angry, or even if you're feeling some of the D's, depressed, or if you feel just kind of apathetic, back to the A's, you can just sit up tall. Take a few breaths, and then when you're ready, you're going to fold forward, but you're going to stay in your fold forward for at least 10 breaths. So I recommend staying upright for 5 to start. Breathing through the nose. Softening the neck. Softening the shoulders. You might notice a shoulder needs some movement Allow yourself that. Tenth breath, exhale, you draw the hands forward so the sitting bones remain on the cushion or whatever you've got. Hands will move only as far forward as they feel okay. Like my knees don't stack that stacky over the other. So one knee kind of sticks into my calf. So I'm going to go ahead and take my blanket and place it under the foot of that side. You could also use a block for that. And we'll walk the hands backward. We're going to take that to the other side. We'll start by placing the leg that was on top, the foot on the ground, a little far away from us, and then scoot the other knee into the chest. So lift the heart, draw the shoulders away from the ears, and then find your ankle circle. Z. The knee of the leg where the foot is on the ground, straight up to the sky. And then we open and close the toes of the hanging foot or the lifted foot. And we're going to go ahead and stack our knees on this side. Might need to adjust. So heels as close to your bolster or pillow as possible. Your knees are stacked as much as possible. Maybe the foot of the leg of the top knee, foot of the leg of the top knee, is that a haiku? Is placed on something. So we'll sit up nice and tall to start with. I'm definitely noticing already an opening, kind of a reset of the lower half of the body. It's almost like my legs have shifted one side to the other. We'll shift from the hips forward. Again, the hands to the ground and walk the hands forward. Dropping the head. Finding 10 breaths. Taking energy away from the shoulders. Allowing the body to settle in. Use the tool that is this posture. Use the tool that is your breath. And if your mind does begin to activate, perhaps use that as a tool to bring forth an intention or an aspiration or a motivation that brought you to your mat today. It doesn't matter what it is, how big or how small. And we'll walk the hands back up. We'll go ahead and unwrap the legs. Bring the soles of the feet together. Maybe your bottom comes backward on your cushion a little bit. And we drop the knees side to side, butterfly. If you'd like to bring some movement into the butterfly, feel free. And whenever you are ready, we'll take a butterfly twist. Right hand behind. It could be on your bolster or your pillows, or maybe your fingertips on the ground. You don't want to put your right hand so deep on the left knee, or your left hand so deep on the right knee that you're lifting the leg. So maybe you just press against it to twist. On the inhale, we get tall, navel in, pelvis forward. On an exhale, we twist. Eyeballs follow, same path, same journey, except maybe they go farther. We'll slowly sweep our way through the front and over to the other side. And we'll come forward. Now we're going to shift the bottom away behind the bolster. Make sure you have enough space to lie down. So maybe the bolster comes forward. You want the bolster high enough on your legs so that your legs can relax on it. Before we do anything else, take your blanket or something else and put it toward the top of the mat, because that's going to come under your head to support your neck. So let's sit up nice and tall here for a moment. Let's bring the arms in front. Draw them back into your shoulders, sit up nice and tall, and breathe. Let the legs soften. On an inhale, arms up overhead. Let them sink into the shoulders, drawing the shoulder blades downward and backward. Maybe the pinkies spin toward each other. And we drop the right hand to take a tilt over to the right. Heart lifts. Maybe the gaze lifts, or maybe the gaze is down or straight out, depending on what feels okay for you. So if you can open up those left side ribs, without squishing the right side so much that it's hard to breathe. Windmill upright. Drop the arms back into the shoulders. Lift the shoulder blades off the muscle behind them. And drop the left hand for our tilt on the other side. And the hand comes down. We come all the way down to the mat, making sure that the legs are fully supported by the bolster, which might mean moving it closer to your sitting bones. And checking that whatever you might have your head on is not lifting the head too high. You want the neck to be long and straight in the back, as opposed to the chin lifting or the forehead lifting. We'll drop the hands to the ground, the backs of the hands, and shimmy the shoulder blades toward the hips on the same side for each shoulder blade. This brings a little bit of a back bend, a little arch, and then lift the pelvis a little bit. Tuck it toward the sky and place the low back on the ground. This is definitely a reset posture. And for some of us, a tertiary tool, which I don't have in front of me right now, I grabbed my sweater if it was right here, is placing something like a blanket, a little bit heavy but not super heavy, over the middle of the body. So you might try that now, especially if you don't need your head propped at all. You could just take your blanket and place it over your midsection. And I just did that. Feels so comforting. So I just moved from A to C. But as to the moving from agitated or anxious into something like bliss. Notice what the face is doing. If you're clenching your jaw, let it loose. Maybe open the mouth a little bit. Maybe separate the lips. Notice the eyebrows. Top of the head. Can you let those go? Can you release them from any squishing or squeezing or frowning, tightening or holding on to something? Take your hands, place them palm down right at the top of your bottom underneath you. So you're sort of supporting the back of the hip, the lower back. And then bring your elbows a little closer to one another to find a little arch in the upper back. So this is a variation on Supta Baddha Konasana, because our knees are not apart. It's more like a fish, although with the fish, the feet are on the floor. So we're just finding a little lift to complete the movement directions of the spine before we move into our next set of tools. And you're welcome to come all the way down to the mat. You may find legs up the wall, or perhaps just rest the feet on your bolster, or maybe come into a happy baby, taking 5 or more breaths in this posture, whatever it is. And when you're ready, maybe you shift onto your side, or maybe you rock and roll up to your seat. And remove your bolster. If you're someone with some knee issues, you might grab, you might fold over your blanket, maybe place a towel or a folded blanket underneath your knees when we go there. We're going to move into tabletop. I'll meet you there in a second after I have some water. The double T, tabletop. All right, so there are a few new things we'll do here, at least one new thing. So as we come into tabletop, knees are a little wide for most of us. They should be directly under the hips. Fingers are a little wide, and then you're gonna kind of draw the fingers toward the palm and feel a little lift of the palm. It's hard to tell if you've ever palmed a basketball, which I have not because they're so large, much larger than my hands. I hear that that's the kind of feel. Now, for many of us, including me right now, I really have a swing in my back, like I'm some old horse who's had thousands of people on his or her back. So I'm going to tuck the tailbone under, and I'm going to send the elbows sort of outward a little bit to wrap the triceps. So here we are in our tabletop, where most frequently cat and cow are taken. But today we are not going to take the cat or the cow unless you desire to at some point. And of course, you're welcome to do that. We are going to start by stretching the right leg behind us with the ball of the foot on the mat. We're not going to rock back and forth at this time. We're going to press into the heel. Find a natural grip without squeezing the toes, but a natural grip from the ball of the foot to the toes. And we're going to squeeze the right glutes. take your left shin and foot and move them to the left. So it's sort of like a kickstand. So your knee stays in place and you kickstand your foot. We're going to draw the hips one over the other, right hip over the left. Bring the right foot to the ground, and this is your side plank for today. You might float your right arm up. You might spin the thumb the other way and take a half bind. Either way, finding yourself strong and long. You might even work with your core and your outer thigh and your inner thigh and lift that right leg off the ground. Some people like to take a quad stretch here. That's not for everybody. The right foot comes down. The right hand comes down. And the right toes come back to the mat. And the left foot comes back to the mat. So now we're going to float that right leg up. Squeeze the buttocks, squeeze the heel. We're going to move the leg over to the right, trying to stay with the foot off the ground and keeping the hips squared up. And then we're going to sweep that right leg all the way to the left side of the mat. Draw the front of the right hip toward your left heel. This is not a pigeon, so your left shin is really parallel to the outer edge of your mat. And you might draw your forearms back. You want a little bit of a swing, like a moon shape, with your hands over to the left, your hips a little to the right, and your right foot to the left. It's a glute opener. When we draw back into our tabletop with the right leg lifted, we square up the hips and draw the right knee across the body toward the left elbow. Press into the ground and round your spine. That leg comes back up and the knee comes to the mat. I like to go a little left and right here with the hips to find a little kind of recentering. You can also do hip circles. I'm going to take the same thing on the other side. So stacking the wrists and shoulders, stacking the knees and hips. We kickstand the lower part of the right leg. So the foot comes outward, but the knee stays where it is. We're going to extend the left leg long, really squeeze that heel backward. Squeeze the left glutes, finding length and strength, the belly drawing in. Not too much energy in the hands, fingers nice and wide. And we take the left foot, bring it all the way to the ground, parallel to the back of the mat. And as we stack the left hip over the right, we also open up the shoulders, maybe so far as to reach the left hand nice and long toward the sky, or maybe turn your palm the other way and take a half bind. Take a few breaths here before lifting the leg. If you want to attempt to join me in that, or just join me in that. Slowly using the belly, the glutes, the quad, we lift the left leg. Right glutes are active, right hamstring is active as well. And the left hand comes to the mat, the hips square up. We move the right foot back in and then swing the left leg out to the right. Same thing as on the other side. Front of the left hip toward the right heel, and maybe the forearms come to the mat. But you're in this glute stretch with a little bit of an arc of the center of the body to the left. Hands a little to the right and hips a little to the right. And now as we lift back up, three-legged tabletop, squaring up the hips, we bend the left knee, draw it toward the right elbow, which will bring us into a rounding of the back. Extend the leg long and bring the knee to the ground. Knees open wide. Let's take the weight off the knees into a child's pose. Arms, if possible, are reaching long in front of you, but only insofar as that doesn't lift your hips up. Sitting bones as close to your heels as you can get them. And the wider the knees, the more softness you can find. A great place to return to your intention, your motivation, your aspiration. Give in to the posture. Let go of letting go. You might feel or notice a subtle opening in the shoulders and the chest, under the arms, in the upper back. Hopefully left to right across the low back and then to the hips. And right to left. Might even feel an opening in the tops of the feet and the ankles. One more big, beautiful breath. Hands walk backward, knees draw a little closer together. We'll go ahead and place the backs of the hands onto the mat. Fingers are not so far from your knees, maybe a couple of inches. Then you lift your bottom so you can get as much of the back of the hands onto the ground. And then see if you can turn the fingers and the hand and the wrist and the arm so that your middle finger and index finger are pretty much pointing directly toward your knee. In other words, you don't want your elbows to be bent out. You don't want your wrists, the backs of the wrists, to be out left and right. Although some surgeries and conditions may prevent this from happening, you would like the center of the backs of the wrists pointing forward. Press the fingers to the ground, maybe a little rock left and right. And if you're super loose in the backs of the wrists and the backs of the arms, you could always curl your fingers, which doesn't work that well for all of us. Like many postures. And when you feel ready, we'll flip like pancakes, the hands, point them a little left and right, all the way left and right, or toward your knees. So this time, the inner wrists are working their way straight to the front of the mat and down to the mat. Ooh, that feels so good. Looks kind of funny. I look like a bizarre, I'm not sure what, a kneeling down kangaroo. Breathe however natural the breath becomes. All right, we're going to work into a downward dog, but then we're going to come back to kneeling because standing postures are contraindications sometimes to moving from agitation or annoyance or anxiety into blissfulness. Not always, because inversions can be good, like down dogs, but you don't want to overdo the movement unless you're trying to get rid of anger. Is a good thing maybe to work more movement into from the A category. All right, so we come back to the tabletop. Just like the tabletop, fingers are wide. Maybe the hands are a little bit forward of the shoulders. We tuck the toes under, and very slowly we draw the navel in so that the lower back is kind of tucking the tailbone under. And then we imagine that the heels of the hands are, the energy of the heels of the hands is moving outward, left and right. And then we begin to use the belly to lift the hips to the sky. You might stay on your toes to start with and feel that length and strength. Your ears are inside your arms. Then you can draw your heels toward the mat and maybe give a little more space between your feet. So the idea here is from the hands to the hip bones, we're lifting toward the sky. You need your belly to help with that. And then from the feet to the hip, to the sitting bones, you're lifting toward the sky, which is a pressing in and a firming up of the feet and the legs. Slowly, we're going to peel our way into plank. Reaching back, getting a nice strong body. Elbows bend. Keep the bum up a little bit and place your knees on the ground and your chin on the ground. Chest lowers to the ground. Whole body gets long. Hands by your sides, left ear on the ground. See if you can soften the arms. The elbows might drop outward a little bit, left and right, in order to let the collarbones and the fronts of the shoulders relax toward the earth. If your feet are sickled, in other words, in a sickle-like shape, you're going to go ahead and draw the heels straight toward the sky and turn your head the opposite direction. Forehead faces the mat. Arms come upward toward the front of the mat. Stack your hands and the elbows are pointing left and right. You know, often like a little kid kids will hang out and talk. Then you're going to place your forehead on top of your the back of your hand. Use your toes to lengthen the leg and then the other leg. Firming up, not the glutes, but firming up the thighs by drawing the kneecaps toward the thighs. If you have low back issues, go ahead and bring more space between your feet. We're going to keep the arms where they are, and as much as possible, use the belly, the power of the belly, pressing into the ground to slowly reach the heart forward, the nose forward, and the heart and nose and rib cage off the ground. You're in a little back bend here. You might feel it mostly in the belly, which is a good thing. That's what we're working on here. But you need to keep the belly strong in order to take the energy out of the low back. We breathe here, 3, 2, all the way down to the mat. Knee wiggle left and right with the hips. We'll do that again. Settling in, steady, sturdy. Belly strong, like you're pushing the belly bit to be bigger, to press into the mat and kind of widen the space from the low belly to the low back. And then heart and chest and head a little forward. As you press into the forearms, use the belly and come into this beautiful stretchy back bend. I can feel it under my arms and my triceps, in my shoulder blades. They draw together. There's a really beautiful dynamic stretching here, or static stretching, sorry. When you're ready, all the way down to the mat, the hands will sweep by the sides with the palms down. The fingers crawl toward the feet. Maybe a little wiggle waggle of the bottom. If possible, the legs zip up. You want to get a nice long low back here. We'll find our way into locust. So first, we use the feet and the hands on the ground. We use the belly to reach the head forward of the shoulders and then start to lift the chest, the collarbones, and the head. We might add the legs next as the kneecaps come toward the thighs without squeezing the buns too much. Continue to use the belly, and then maybe the arms float up, bringing the shoulder blades closer together. Powerful posture, not easy to maintain. And we're going to find our way back to child's to stretch out the low back before we move to our final seated posture and shavasana. Not seated, kneeling. I always find the middle of this class goes really fast, the middle 20 minutes. It's kind of funny. We come back to our TT tabletop, and we once again kickstand the right leg. So you're keeping the knee where it is, moving the right foot out to the right. And then we're going to lifting the right knee. We're going to bring that right foot to the ground. So we're at a sort of 45-degree angle here. You're working that right knee back. You're using the whole foot, but pushing into the outer part of the foot. And then we find this stretch by bringing the hip back. Very interesting, very odd. Very unusual, but there's a stretch in the armpit, the pecs, the inner thigh, and there's some stability being created in the foot and the outer thigh. As we come forward, we keep the toes on the ground, tap the knee in to where it needs to be, and then unhinge the leg. Take it out of its kickstand effect. Other side, left foot and shin hinge outward to the left. We begin to spin on the toes to bring the sole of the foot to the ground. As much 90 degrees from the other hip as possible, 45 from the other hip as possible. And then we draw the sitting bones backward. All right, knee comes toward knee. Foot comes in. We cross our legs and find our way all the way on our backs. I'm going to face sideways for this. I recommend taking a soft item, but maybe half a pound. I don't know how much a blanket weighs. Place it over your midline. Knees bent, feet are wide. Feet are as wide as your mat, palms face upward or downward, but out left and right, whichever feels better. Knees together and our little twist. And when you're ready, your final resting posture for Shavasana. A whole bunch of tools to move from A, anxious, agitated, angry. I'm sure there's more, all the way to point B, blissful, blessed, beloved. Soften into this posture, soften into your breath. Let the face get loose. The toes are tilting out to the left and out to the right on the respective feet. And if you have to move to adjust something that maybe is causing pain or deep discomfort, feel free. Take a deep, deep breath, maybe a full body stretch. Release it out the mouth. Bend your knees and allow yourself onto your side where you'll press yourself into a seat. If you like, go ahead and sit on your bolster or blanket or pillows. Whatever you have that might still feel good for you. We'll drop the hands by the sides. Inhale, arms out. Palms turn up for the exhale. Inhale, arms up overhead. Shoulders drop for the exhale. Inhale fully. Exhale, hands to your heart. To share and spread the merits of this practice, to cement our aspirations, intentions, even our inspirations. We'll use a single chant of Om. If you'd like to join in, feel free. If you're not in a space where that makes sense, no worries. So we breathe all the air from the lungs, inhale fully, and then chant. Thumb knuckles right to your center forehead, honoring one another, honoring moving from point A to point B, and honoring yoga that brings us the tools to choose to respond versus react. Namaste. As always, terrific to practice with you. Thank you so much for sharing your energy and your time. And I hope that you will see me again soon. And perhaps I will see you here at the studio in Vermont. Thanks and have a great day.